All right, let's talk about one of the words that has haunted Browns fans for years. It's not championships, unfortunately. It's expectations, right? We have talked and talked and talked and talked and talked and talked and talked about expectations. And this year is a weird year because, I mean, we could just go over the last 4 years in general. 2018, no expectations. We were all right with the under 500 season. Okay, cool. Had the signs, had the moments, right? Had the moments, and I'm bringing this up for a good reason. But remember, 2018, under 500. Browns were under 500 that year. 7-8-1. We were fine with it. Why we were fine with it? Didn't have high expectations to begin with. Switched quarterbacks in the middle of the year. Thought you saw some good signs from the quarterback at the beginning of that, at the beginning and the end of that year. Thought that you had some good signs for this team going forward. We didn't see this as a team that finished under 500 in 2018. We saw this as a team on the rise. Whether that was true or not, we did not know. But we saw this as a team on the rise. So we were all right with going 500, under 500. Get to 2019. Again, now the expectations are on the rise. And that's the natural way of it, right? When you're happy for 7-9, it's usually because you think you're going to get more after that. So people are kind of putting all this expectation in reserve. We get to 2019. You trade for Odell Beckham. You feel like Baker's going to be in an offense that fits him, ironically enough, with Freddie Kitchens. And we get to 2019, and the expectations continue to rise from the end of 2018. That season starts, they go 6-10, and even though that's one less, that's just one loss more than what they had last year, it was a much more painful route to get there, right? Because the expectations started here. And that's not like a lesson to tell you should never have expectations. No, you should have expectations when they're warranted. 2019, the expectations were warranted because the team felt like they were on a rise, and then they crashed. Sometimes warranted expectations just don't fall through, right? So 2019, they crash. Expectations are back down here. 2020, they go 11-5. Boom, expectations back through here because, again, we saw this as a team on the rise, right? We saw the pieces in place. We saw promising signs from the quarterback, and we bought back in. Right? We did the same buy-in we did in 2019. Again, a justified buy-in because this team showed signs of being on the rise. Despite one over 500 season in 3 years, it showed the signs. So we bought in all the way up here. I mean, got to the divisional round, won a playoff game, ain't done that in years. And then 2021 happens. Even though you won more games than you did in 2018, you weren't happy about it, right? Which tells you expectations rise and drop like the stock market. You cannot declare at the beginning of the offseason or at the beginning of the season, this is my expectation, and then it mean anything, right? Because ultimately, your expectation, just like the stock market, just like anything else, is going to fluctuate. It's going to rise when the team looks like they're on a rise, and it's going to dip when the team has a hiccup. That's what expectations are. A lot of the time, we talk about expectations, right? I hear fans do this all the time. It's one of my pet peeves. Oh, well, I don't know. I don't want to get disappointed again, Quincy. We're just going to go and say that the Browns are going to be 7-9. Or 7-10. I just don't want to be disappointed. You're going to be disappointed, right? Because if you're just saying 7-9 not to be disappointed, but you don't believe this team is 7-9 worthy, what you said that expectation is going to be means nothing. You're not saving yourself from anything other than drowning people's energy, right? Like you're not really helping yourself. You're just trying to, but there's nothing you can do about it because I can't change how expectations fluctuate. You can't change how expectations fluctuate because this happens as a result of how the team performs on the field, right? And we're not in control of that. As much as we would love to be, this ain't Madden. We ain't in control of that, right? We can have expectations for our Madden franchises and stuff like that because we can control what goes on there. But as far as the team, I'm not saying have no expectations, but understand, set your expectations like Vegas sets a line, right? 3 months before the season, they just throwing out, 3.5 maybe? Who cares? The line that matters is going to be the line that it is at kickoff. It's going to fluctuate, right? So don't think that you have to be held to an expectation that you had in August, right? If somebody's trying to hold you to that, they're just trying to prove a point. They're not actually trying to have a conversation with you. So that is where I start this conversation out about expectations. They fluctuate. Now let's talk about the 2022 Cleveland Browns. Because not only here's how fluctuating the expectations are for the Cleveland Browns. Like up until 3 days ago, you can even bet on the Browns for over or under for their win total this season. Like Vegas don't even know where to set the baseline expectation, right? So yeah, how would we, right? And the reason that is obviously this season is split into 2 parts, 2 sections. This is a 2-part season, right? It's like when they did that with Better Call Saul, they split the season. The Browns are basically doing that, right? There is the first part of this season, the Jacoby Brissett season, right? The Jacoby Brissett arc, those 11 episodes that we're going to get on Sundays. We get 11 episodes of Jacoby Brissett. And then split, boom, 6 episodes of Deshaun Watson, right? Whatever that's going to be. We expect these Deshaun Watson episodes to be good, but we don't know. We don't really know what to expect out this Jacoby Brissett episode. We ain't never seen him direct this show, right? But that is what this year is. It's split into 2. There's the Jacoby Brissett. There's the Deshaun. Some people are just going to watch the Deshaun parts. Some people are just going to watch the Jacoby parts. Throughout the whole season, people are going to say it's terrible no matter what the results are. This is what this year is going to be. I honestly don't know if on the field expectations are the right conversation to have with Browns fans right now. I think the better conversation is what do we do about how people are going to treat Browns fans throughout this year? Because I don't want to go, woe is me, oh, poor Browns fans. People are mad at us because we have Deshaun Watson now. I honestly think we've replaced the Browns jokes, the terrible Browns jokes for most people. The Browns don't win the Super Bowl. They've basically replaced those with Deshaun Watson jokes at this point, right? It's the same energy. It's just a different joke at this point, right? So that's going to happen. Nobody in the media is going to feel like making the Browns a feel-good story because they're just not a feel-good story right now, right? In order to feel good, the majority of the population has to feel good about your team winning, and a lot of people just don't like who the quarterback's going to be for the last 6 episodes. And yes, I'm going to continue to say episodes instead of games because I got to spice this up somehow, right? But yeah, it's going to be weird, right? People aren't going to be giving the Browns a lot of benefit of the doubt. And that's something the Browns do get a lot of sometimes, right? Where people just want to hey, it's going to be a feel-good story if the Browns win more than 5 games because we're so pathetic, right? We don't get pity anymore. We have been decent long enough, 3 years of third place finishes, to where the Browns don't get that pity love anymore. We're not going to get people's pity. They're not going to feel bad for us if we suck. They're going to make fun of us. I think that's an expectation that Browns fans should have. And if they suck this year, it does suck. You don't have a first-round pick, right? If you give up a top 10 pick, that sucks. But it's not the end of the world. Because ultimately, you made this trade for not just this year, but for years down the line. And the Browns believe that Deshaun Watson can win this team a Super Bowl. And no matter how bad this year is, if Deshaun Watson is the quarterback of the team that wins the Super Bowl in Cleveland, that trade is ultimately, football-wise, going to be seen as worth it. No matter what picks you give up, it would be seen as worth it. And that's the hope. That's the pressure that's on Deshaun Watson, right? He needs to win a Super Bowl to justify this whole thing. But we'll see if he gets that. Now, what are the expectations for 2022, right? Given that I've said all this, right? It's a baseline. We don't know what to expect. This thing split into 2. It can be perceived as a mess, But the one thing to keep in mind is that the Cleveland Browns are still a really good roster. Hasn't meant much, but it's a really good roster, right? And what it has meant is that this team, with Kevin Stefanski, this team was a disaster last year. They still won 8 games in a very tough conference, in a very tough division. Still find a way to sweep the Bengals. Still did some good things with the terrible offense, right? So what are my expectations for the Cleveland Browns? I would say this. We're going to start with part A of the season, the Jacoby Brissett episodes. I think people are expecting, here's what I think the national media is going to predict. I think they think the Browns are going to get 3 or 4 of those games. I think the Browns should get 5. I wouldn't say at least 5. I think 4 is a reasonable number for people to say, but I think 5 is what they get. I think 6 is what I would want them to get. And I would say 7 is the most I think they can get out of that, right? So 5 to 7 in that period. You flip over to the Deshaun stuff. 6 games against winnable opponents, I think, as far as it projects now, assuming relative health for everybody. Like if the games were played today, it would be games that the Browns would be favored in. There are a couple factors, right? How long does it take Deshaun to get acclimated? Will a Jacoby Brissett, after 11 games of playing football and being warm and being loose and everything else, will Deshaun be worse than that version of Jacoby Brissett when he first comes back being rusty? I think he'll be all right. But, that's going to be a question that's going to be out there, right? How people react to Deshaun Watson, how's that going to change? I believe the Browns have 2 road games when Deshaun comes back. 2 of them, right? So 2 before any good reaction. Who knows what we're going to get at the home stadium? Probably applause. But he's going to get the life boot out of him in Cincinnati. He's going to get the life boot out of him in Houston. How does that affect the team, right? Does it amp them up? Does it give them energy? Or does it freak them out? We'll see. I think you get 5 of those games. I think you split with the Ravens this year, so you're going to win one of those, and you're probably going to win the one you have with Deshaun. I think you at least split with the Bengals, and if you win one of those, you're probably getting to one at the back end of the season. So those are the 2 toughest games in that stretch from right now at this part in August, if assuming relative health. And then all those other games I don't think are that difficult. Pittsburgh, I don't think it's difficult. I believe you play the Saints. I don't think they're that difficult of a matchup. I don't see a real tough game in there. So I think Deshaun can get 5 of them. I think at the very least he should get 4. He should go 4-2 in that stretch. So you're talking 9 to 10 wins. That's my expectation for this year is 9 to 10 wins. Will that change? At week 4, probably. Because again, expectations go up and down like the stock market. Sometimes you're buying low. Sometimes you're buying high. Sometimes you're buying low in the hopes of the team going high. But that's what it's going to be. It is not going to be, if the Browns are successful this year, nobody outside of Cleveland's going to feel good about it. We just have to accept that and enjoy it ourselves. If the Browns are bad this year, we're going to hear about it. But when do we not hear about it when the Browns are bad? It wouldn't be anything special, right? And honestly, they treat us like we always bad even when the Browns aren't. So, again, that's my expectation for the year. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your expectations down in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.